a skyline carved against the storm, steel giants reaching for heaven while thunder growls below. Each window a mirror of ambition, each light a heartbeat of a dream called America. But listen closer, there's something missing in that glow. A silence, a name the wind refuses to carry. They say the city was built by visionaries, white collars, blueprints, cigars in their mouths. But somewhere beneath the roar of progress, a different hand drew the future. A hand darker than the ink it held. He wasn't in the photos. He wasn't in the textbooks. Yet every beam that pierces the night still whispers his language. Precision, beauty, defiance. They called him a worker, but his work was poetry in steel. He shaped skylines that kissed the clouds while the world looked right through him. A gust of wind flips an old blueprint. One signature, a single letter, E. Not erased, just hidden. He designed the modern skyline, and history buried him under it. The city's heartbeat slows. Rain slides down the glass like tears over memory. So tell me, when we look up at these towers, are we seeing the triumph of a nation or the shadow of a man it tried to forget? Because somewhere in that reflection, between the thunder and the glass, the ghost of a black architect still stands, watching the world he built pretend it built itself. Imagine a world built to keep you small. A world where every doorway said whites only. Where genius had to whisper and creation wore someone else's name. Early 1900s America. Steam hisses, trains scream through Chicago. Men in stiff collars and bowler hats flood the streets, their shoes striking the cobblestone like gunfire. The air smells of coal and ambition. The skyline is rising, and so is the lie. A lie of who's allowed to build it. Architecture was the art of kings, of white men with family fortunes, marble offices, and names engraved into the foundations they never laid. But for a black man, even walking through the lobby of a firm was an act of rebellion. Now picture a boy, no older than 12, standing in the dirt beside a half-built tower. He stares up as the steel skeleton climbs toward the clouds. Every beam catches the sun like a promise. In his hand, a scrap of paper, a broken pencil. He sketches what he sees, not to copy it, but to improve it, to fix what the world told him was already perfect. Each line he draws is quiet defiance, each curve a refusal. He doesn't dream of escaping gravity, he dreams of mastering it. While the rich talk of progress in smoke-filled parlors, this boy studies shadows. He memorizes the rhythm of machines, the groan of cranes, the way wind bends against glass and steel. He listens to the city like it's music, jazz before jazz was born. Years pass. The golden age of skyscrapers begins. The race to the sky. Rockefeller, Burnham, Sullivan, men whose names would become monuments. But in the faded corner of a photograph, one figure stands apart, hands clasped behind himself, watching, learning, holding the real plans. He's not in the caption, he's not in the records, but if you look close, the proportions, the geometry, the grace, they all carry his fingerprint. The invisible mark of the man who was never supposed to exist. And yet, he does. In the rhythm of rivets, in the balance of beauty and strength. He builds in silence because silence is safer. He designs for men who'll never say his name, but they'll cash his brilliance in gold. Jazz hums through the streets now, that restless rising sound of rebellion dressed as art. It's the soundtrack of his life, elegant chaos, controlled freedom. Every note says what his lips can't. He walks past his own creation one evening, a tower crowned in light. People stare at it in awe, whispering the architect's name, the wrong one. He smiles anyway, because the truth doesn't need applause. It only needs to stand. But something in him is shifting. He's tired of sketching dreams that others claim, tired of being the ghost behind the glory. And deep inside, a storm begins to build, quiet, certain, unstoppable. Something was about to break. A table covered in blueprints, edges curling under the weight of dreams. Pencil strokes sharp as thunderbolts. Lines that don't just plan a building, they challenge gravity itself. He draws like a man possessed. Vertical gardens, sunlit atriums, steel that bends with the wind instead of breaking against it. Designs so bold, even the city's titans call them madness. But to him, madness is the language of creation. He's not sketching a tower, he's sketching freedom. The year is 1910-something. America is roaring toward the modern age, but not everyone's invited to the future. For a black architect, even a whisper of ambition is dangerous. Still, he dares to dream taller. Day after day, he sends proposals to firms that never reply. Weeks turn into years of silence. Each rejection burns deeper than the last. But he keeps drawing, keeps believing. And then, one night, a letter arrives. A white businessman, a rebel in his own right, has seen his designs. He's intrigued, maybe even impressed. But there's a catch. He'll fund the project, the grandest tower in the city, on one condition. His name stays on the contract, not the architect's. A pause, a heartbeat, and then a single nod. They shake hands in the half-light, both men knowing what this means. One risks his fortune, the other his identity. Together, they set out to build the impossible. The city awakens. Steel rises against the dawn. Sparks fly, hammers ring like church bells. Rivets scream into place. Every clang echoes with purpose, a hymn for the unheard. He stands in the shadows of his own creation, watching the tower climb skyward. Higher, higher. Every beam a victory. Every floor a rebellion. Workers wipe sweat from their brows, never knowing the man behind the plans stands right beside them. He studies their rhythm, the pulse of labor, the poetry of movement. He sketches between hammer strikes, lost in the symphony of progress. The structure begins to take form, sleek, elegant, defiant. A tower that breathes light. A shape that whispers, "You cannot cage brilliance." For the first time in his life, he feels it, recognition flickering in the air. Whispers spread among builders, city planners, even rival firms. Who designed this? No one knows, but it's genius. He smiles, not for pride, but for vindication, for proof that vision doesn't need permission. Then, one morning, a gust of wind carries the morning paper to his doorstep. He bends to pick it up. Front page. The future of American architecture, a marvel of modern design. He scans the column, eyes darting, heart racing. And then he stops. Where his name should be, silence. Just 3 words. Architect unknown. Time freezes. The hum of the city fades. He stares at the page as if it's laughing at him. The same hand that built a tower to touch the sky can't even sign its own creation. He walks to the site that evening. The building glows in the sunset, golden, untouchable.
Crowds gather to marvel at its beauty. Photographers capture the angles, the light, the illusion of progress. But no one looks at him. He's invisible in the reflection of his own dream. A man nearby says, "Imagine what kind of genius thought this up." He almost answers, almost says, "I did," but the words die in his throat. Because genius, in this world, has a color, and his doesn't fit the blueprint. That night, he returns to his workshop. The blueprints still cover the table, ghosts of the future he gave away. He touches the edges gently, as if apologizing, then folds them up. His voice quiet. They can take the name, but not the sky. Outside, thunder rolls over the city, a low, endless growl. The tower stands tall, illuminated like a crown of fire. The world celebrates its triumph, never knowing whose hands gave it life. And as the lightning splits the clouds, one thought pierces the darkness. Was this the price of building a world that refused to see him? Or the moment he realized that even erased names can still touch the heavens? A single light bulb sways above a cluttered studio, shadows stretching across walls lined with dreams, blueprints pinned like prayers, models of towers that could touch the clouds, the air thick with the smell of ink, sweat, and quiet defiance. But outside, footsteps, heavy, urgent. A storm is coming, and it's not made of rain. Voices rise in a smoky room across town, rival architects in pressed suits, their words sharp enough to cut through glass. They speak his name like a threat. He's a fraud. He stole those ideas. Impossible for him to design that. Laughter follows. Not the kind that's funny, the kind that burns. To them, his talent isn't brilliance, it's blasphemy. A black man creating designs beyond their comprehension? Unthinkable, unacceptable, dangerous. They draft letters, file complaints, whisper to the right men in the right rooms. By morning, the city believes the lie, and by night, the law comes knocking. The door crashes open. Police boots shatter the silence. His studio, his sanctuary, becomes a battlefield. Papers fly like frightened birds. Drawings torn, models smashed. The future ripped apart piece by piece. He tries to speak, to explain, but no one listens. They see only color, not creation. A gloved hand grabs a stack of sketches, his life's work, and tosses them into the fire. The flames devour genius like its contraband. He watches, frozen, as his dreams curl into ash. And in the doorway, the one man he thought would stand beside him, his patron, the investor who promised the world. Eyes full of guilt, voice trembling. You're brilliant, but this world isn't ready for your name. The words hit harder than the raid itself. Because he's right, the world isn't ready. But should he wait for permission to exist? The patron leaves without another word. The door closes. The sound echoes like a coffin lid. That night, he returns to his workshop. The blueprints still cover the table, ghosts of the future he gave away. He touches the edges gently, as if apologizing, then folds them up. His voice quiet. They can take the name, but not the sky. Outside, thunder rolls over the city, a low, endless growl. The tower stands tall, illuminated like a crown of fire. The world celebrates its triumph, never knowing whose hands gave it life. And as the lightning splits the clouds, one thought pierces the darkness. Was this the price of building a world that refused to see him? Or the moment he realized that even erased names can still touch the heavens.
He stands in the ruins of his studio, blueprints still smoldering. Sparks drift through the air like dying stars. Then a single ember lands on the scale model of his masterpiece, the tower that was meant to change everything. It catches fire slowly, then all at once. Wood crackles, glass melts. The structure collapses in on itself, a miniature of his own downfall. For a moment, he just watches. The glow of the fire paints his face in red and gold. Tears don't fall, only silence. Because he knows what they've taken isn't just his work. They've taken his name, his legacy, his future. The city outside keeps building, louder, faster, as if nothing happened. The hammering of steel becomes distant, rhythmic, hollow. Then it fades, replaced by a new sound. A heartbeat. Slow, heavy, alive. In that rhythm, something awakens. Resolve, defiance, rebirth. He kneels, sifts through the ashes, and finds a single piece of charred blueprint. The lines are faint, almost gone, but the vision is still there. He whispers to himself, "They can burn the plans, but not the architect." Smoke fills the room as the screen fades to black, and the question lingers like an echo through time. Was this the moment history forgot him, or the moment he began again? A city skyline, jagged, proud, glittering under the moon. Every tower a story, every light a secret. And somewhere, hidden beneath the concrete and glass, the ghost of the man who built it. Years have passed. The fire in his eyes has dimmed, but never died. His hands, older now, tremble not from age, but from everything they've taken from him. The name, the credit, the legacy. But he doesn't stop. He can't. By candlelight, he sketches new visions. Buildings that breathe, towers that feel alive. He sends them out through others. False names, silent partners, hidden channels. His designs travel like whispers through the veins of American industry. And soon they rise. Detroit, New York, Philadelphia. Steel spines pierce the sky, all sharing the same rhythm, his rhythm. The same symmetry, the same defiance. People look up in wonder, never knowing the truth, never realizing they're staring at one man's rebellion, carved in steel, disguised by silence. He has become a ghost, everywhere and nowhere, the architect America forgot to remember. Decades later, a young assistant in a dusty archive notices something strange. Tiny engravings hidden in the foundations of several old towers. Not words, just two letters, E.W. The same mark, over and over again. Each one buried where no one was supposed to look. He left his truth in stone. A signature for the future, not for fame, but for proof. Proof that he existed, that he mattered, that the sky they worshipped once came from his hands. Now, historians retrace his steps, following blueprints long mislabeled. Each discovery pulls another secret from the shadows. The city itself becomes a confession, a map of a man erased by history, but immortalized by creation. So the question lingers, whispered by the wind between skyscrapers. Did he build the world,
just to vanish from it? Or did he carve his name deep enough that time itself would one day remember? A city alive with light, glass and steel scraping the clouds, billboards flashing faces of men they call pioneers, visionaries, fathers of the modern age. But behind every glowing name lies a shadow, and tonight that shadow is ready to speak. The screen flickers, old newspaper clippings, headlines rolling across the frame like ghosts. The genius who built the modern city. A new era of design. Page after page, all the same. Different buildings, different names. None of them his. The tick of a clock cuts through the noise. Steady, cold, unforgiving. Tick. For every second that passed, another year erased his legacy. Tick. A century of silence. Tick. The sound of history pretending it forgot. And then a discovery. An old archive buried in dust and time. A locked drawer. A single envelope sealed with wax, its edges brittle with age. The camera moves in close. A gloved hand opens it. Inside, a letter. Ink faded, but the handwriting still strong. His words spill out like a confession to the future. They can take my credit, not my craft. When they look up, they'll still see me. The voice echoes, layered over images of his towers, rising like testaments of defiance, concrete prayers reaching toward heaven, each one a silent scream against the erasure that buried him. The music swells, strings trembling like the heartbeat of history waking up. The drums roll, deep and heavy, like thunder crawling across the horizon. We see the skyline from above. Detroit, Chicago, New York. The cities he touched, the cities that forgot. And then, one by one, lights begin to flicker on across the skyline. A wave of illumination spreading through the night, like the truth finally catching up to time. Each building glowing, not in celebration, but in remembrance. He built for them to look up, to wonder, to feel small and infinite at the same time. And even if they never said his name, his art made sure they would still see him.
Because history can bury the man, but it can't bury what he made. The camera lingers on the tallest tower, his design, his vision. Wind rushes, city hums. For the first time in 100 years, it feels alive with his presence. The music softens to silence, just the hum of lights, the breath of a city that finally remembers its maker. And then the question, soft, haunting, how many more have we forgotten? The screen fades to black. Only his initials remain, carved in stone, glowing faintly under the city lights. E.W. Imagine the sound of a city breathing, steel humming, engines echoing, the low murmur of life stacked 100 stories high. Now look closer. See the faces behind the skyline, the workers balanced on beams, skin glistening under the morning sun. Black, brown, white, hands different in color, identical in callus. Together they build the same dream, the same illusion of progress. Cut to silence. Wind brushes across an unfinished skyscraper, a monument reaching for heaven, yet haunted by the ghosts of those who built it. A historian's voice breaks through, low and reverent. He was more than an architect. He was a mirror of what America could have been, and what it chose to hide. The screen fades between past and present, his sketches overlaid on drone shots of modern skylines. You can almost see him there, standing in the wind, coat flapping, watching the city rise. But the question lingers in the concrete. Why was his name left out of the story he helped write? Museums still waiting for a plaque. No statue, no gallery, no memorial. Just buildings, his true monuments, pretending they don't know his face. The camera drifts through fog, between towers that stretch into the clouds. His story fades with it, dissolving into the skyline like a whispered secret. A voice, faint, almost like a prayer. He reached for the sky. The world only saw his shadow. The music softens, strings over the sound of city wind. We cut to empty blueprints, scattered like fallen leaves. A single pencil rolls across the table. Was it all progress? Or just another wall built higher, shinier, stronger, to keep some people out of the frame? The camera pans up one last time. Light breaks over glass. The city gleams. And somewhere within that glow, the echo of a forgotten man still whispers through the steel. I am here. You just forgot to look up. Then, black screen. His question lingers like a heartbeat. Did we build progress, or just taller walls? A skyline at dawn. The city glows, not from sunlight, but from memory. Glass towers stretch like frozen lightning, their reflections spilling across the morning haze. Drones drift between them, silent witnesses to the world he once imagined. Inside one of those towers, a young black architect leans over his desk. Blueprints spread before him like constellations of ambition. The faint hum of the city below sounds like applause. He pauses, looks out the window, and whispers to himself. He made this possible. The camera pulls back, from his hands to his tower, from his tower to the skyline, from the skyline to the horizon. A city built on forgotten hands, still standing tall. He didn't just change his time, he changed ours. His legacy isn't carved in marble or written in textbooks. It lives in steel and light, in every beam that cuts through fog, in every architect who dares to dream higher than the world allows. The music softens, a single piano note, echoing like memory. The wind whistles between skyscrapers, carrying voices we never heard. And if you listen close enough, you can still hear him, the rhythm of his heart beating through the city he built but never owned. Because every tower still carries his name, not written on the door, but etched in the sky. The screen fades to black. White text appears. For every name history forgot, the city still remembers. Then silence. Only the wind remains.